It's time for all your binge-worthy pop culture news. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hey, guys. Welcome back and happy Thursday. Guys, there's so much news going on right now, especially with the Girardi scandal and Erika Girardi, Tom Girardi, Ronald Richards especially. So we have a lot to go over, but I didn't want to just come on here and talk about something I didn't know how to talk about. So I thought it was only fitting that we bring Ronald Richards on himself. So before we bring him up, guys, this is a subscribers only live chat. So if you're not subscribed, get subscribed. Don't forget to smash that like button. And if you haven't hit the notification bell, well, you're missing all of our other content. So with that, let's welcome Ronald Richards. Hey, Ronald.
Hey, Adam. How are you doing?
Good. All right. So there's a lot of news coming up. So with that, let's welcome Ronald Richards. Ronald, I think that you have another tab open because we can hear it.
Yeah, let me fix that. How's that?
Yeah, much better. Much better. Oh, nope, we can still hear it.
Here, how's that? Sorry about that.
Yes, much better now. Okay,
All right.
Perfect. All right, so we have over 150 people in the room in the first minute, so that's amazing. Ronald, I wanted to bring you on because there was a document that was shared with me last night, and I just wanted to bring it up and show you, only because I always get so nervous when these documents come up, and it was this one right here. Okay, so can you see that?
Yes, I can see it.
All right, so it says United States Bankruptcy Court, Central District of California, Los Angeles Division, and it says reply brief in support of Edelson PC's motion to clarify automatic stay. Well, I scrolled down to page 5, and in page 5 it says Up and Adam YouTube interview. Erika Girardi and Ronald Richards finds common ground in opposing the motion. I always, when I get calls that say, you know, Adam, you were brought up in the case, I always get kind of nervous about it because I'm like, I don't know what that means. But what does this whole motion mean, period?
Well, first of all, the motion is in the Thomas Girardi personal bankruptcy case. There was originally a motion for relief from stay, which basically the moving party is asking permission from the bankruptcy court in that estate to be allowed to basically continue on with a lawsuit that was filed against Erika Girardi and other defendants last year.
Okay.
And so, yeah, that's what the motion was originally for. And the trustee in our case filed an opposition a few weeks ago, which we put on our Twitter feed.
Okay. And one of the rumors that's going around right now is the fact that you may not be a part of this case any longer moving forward. And I just wanted to, I didn't want to do a video and be like, Ronald Richards is off the case. I wanted to bring you on so you could let us know, what does this look like? What does this mean for you? And what does this mean moving forward?
Well, I'm glad, I appreciate you bringing me on, because it's really silly when people just go on air or they run a video and they don't even have the person that's the subject on to talk about it. So I appreciate it, because we just get the information correctly. Our firm is a firm that's on the case as a contingency fee arrangement. It's not me personally, it's the law firm. Just like you see other names, it says PC after the firm. It's the same thing with our firm. So we were hired on a contingency to only investigate Erika, and we were hired primarily because we had done a lot of research and public speaking to keep everybody informed and expose a lot of what was going on in California for the victims of this tragedy. And so that's how we got involved originally. And then we were limited to just Erika Girardi, and everyone remembers how her lawyers quit and filed motions to get off the case. And then there was a whole series of motions where she tried to remove me. The judge denied them, issued a lengthy opinion, and basically said that there was no gag order and we could say whatever we want, including coming on your show. I mean, one thing I was never willing to compromise on was being muzzled and not being able to look at all the other targets that victimize these clients, and was somehow going to be limited. So in any fee arrangement, it has to work for both sides. So obviously I'm not in favor of having Erika get sued in another jurisdiction, not because I have any love for Erika or I'm working with her. It's because it hurts the victims, and I'll explain why. Because she's going to be dragged into Chicago if the judge allows it. It's going to be sitting there in a busy federal district court for maybe a year. Unfortunately, that's just how the legal system is. And the most that person could get, that firm could get, is $2 million. And they're suing for their legal fees. They don't represent any clients. And so we felt, and the trustee opposed it, because what did I do all this work for? I worked for 6 months. Erika and I had all these exchanges, all the back and forth. And then she became very cooperative, provided me all the discovery. I had all my reports done. I know exactly where the $25 million went. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, we're going to have a fight over $2 million from the same account. So would that be coming out of the $25 million on top of the $25 million? So the trustee opposed the motion. But then this kind of turned into something else, where we were now going to be stuck with a potential delay in further draining of her resources. So Erika happened to oppose the same motion we opposed. So that happens sometimes when a third party files a motion. Someone you're suing may agree with you on that one issue. That's like very common in court. So, but for different reasons, if that makes sense. So does that make sense?
Definitely.
Okay, Erika's never going to settle if she's being sued in 10 different directions. That's why I posted on our Twitter feed today all of her open lawsuits, which we're still suing Erika for 2 other victims of the Girardi case. We're still attorney of record. When we took this case, we were never going to sacrifice those clients. So basically, as I told you probably a month ago, my work is done on the case. Our firm cannot stay on this case for another year now doing nothing. There's literally nothing more to do except settle, but we're not going to settle now because nobody would allow anybody to settle under these allegations and under these facts. So unfortunately, if I'm posting something, people may read it on the Twitter page and say, wow, he's supporting Erika. No, I'm not. I'm supporting the denial of the motion in the other bankruptcy because it affects my ability to go forward. And because of all the allegations and everything and all the sort of histrionics, I felt like yesterday, do I really want to spend another 30 hours a week working on this case for what, and sort of dealing with negativity and all these other things, when I can go after other targets now unrestrained, that I'm not limited by this case, still working to expose what happened here and still getting claims and participating in the case. I'm a creditor in the case, and I put on there's other people that we're looking at. And so basically what was in the best interest of everybody is just simply a substitution was signed by me and it'll be filed. I signed it right before I came on to basically voluntarily leave the case. It's just that's really the short answer. So I can continue with what I was doing before I got on the case and continue prosecuting my other case against Erika and my other 70 other active files. I mean, I think if the judge allows this limited case on attorney's fees to go back to Chicago, Erika's only sued in 2 causes of action in that case. 1 for an accounting, which we're already suing her for, and 2 for what's called a constructive trust. And the judge in that case said any money that comes in is stayed by the bankruptcy case and stayed that count in Chicago. So the only way there's going to be additional money from all this hoopla is if somehow that firm shows Erika basically stole the money from the victims that came into the Girardi trust account. And I know the evidence pretty well. I've been doing this night and day for 6 months. When money came in, they paid a bunch of bills. It didn't go to her specifically. And even my $25 million claim, I never said it went to her specifically. I said that it went to different vendors of hers. So we have a great team, and there becomes a point where if my First Amendment activities and what I like to do in my own style, because again, there's not an involuntary servitude. I'm not stuck to work for someone or work in an environment that I can't do what I like to do. Sometimes it's better just to leave voluntarily with everybody in a good mood, no negativity. And it happens very frequently. Like if you feel like people are kind of trying to question what your litigation style, or it's not how they would do it, it's sometimes better just to switch.
Okay, so that answers the question from Rita. So you were not fired. No, you are stepping away. And Lisa H asked, Edelson found a direct link of the money from the Boeing case to Erika. Is that true?
I mean, that's what he said in his papers, but unfortunately, it's really not true, to the extent that money came in with a bunch of other settlements, and then it went out to a bunch of different vendors, including American Express, which also Tom Girardi had an American Express card. I'm already suing for all the American Express charges, over $14 million that Erika received. So it's not really a direct link, like from the account to Erika. It's simply, that's a lawyer's argument. And look, if they want to spend a bunch of time to get $2 million that may have to then just go back to the estate, that's okay. It's just not what I want to participate in. It's a waste of my time, and it doesn't help the victims. That's why it was opposed by the trustee. But when everyone's questioning everybody's motives and then making outlandish claims that somehow I'm collaborating with Erika, it's silly. Like, and it's sometimes better just to say, okay, you want it so badly, go and do it then. I mean, it's not worth having all this acrimony, if that makes sense.
Definitely. Lori Hartman wanted to know, question, why was Up and Adam mentioned specifically in that document?
Well, that's a great question. It was it was mentioned specifically because you and I did an interview that discussed the filing by Erika's attorneys questioning the lack of client signatures on the fee sharing agreement. And they were trying to say, I came on your show basically as some sort of coordinated PR effort, not knowing you're an independent a journalist. No one tells you what to do. Nothing's coordinated. And that you and I have had many broadcasts. And that was what they used as evidence to say, look, he went on the show on this day. She filed her opposition. And then they took quotes of mine out of context that were unrelated to the Boeing case and simply just made me look bad, like I was talking about a case that had nothing to do with the quote. But lawyers are allowed to do that. But there was nothing. My comments to you have nothing to do with the Boeing victims specifically at all, because that's not something I've ever been involved in. I was only, if people will remember, I discovered the lottery tickets that we got the first check impounded in the trustee's account. Our firm has done a very good job of isolating all of her revenue streams. The lottery tickets, I sent out all those 2004 exams to the business managers, the divorce attorneys, and I have it all teed up for the time to settle the case. The only way this case will ever resolve, and people always ask me, why can't you garnish her check? You got to have a judgment. She's going to fight to the end to get a $25 million judgment. I mean, that would put her into bankruptcy, and then no one would get nothing. So that's where we're at. I mean, we've done the work, and we've tied up all of the money that was improperly diverted and exposed it. I shouldn't be working on a case if I can't do anymore. And I also don't, even though I've been hard on Erika and nasty to her, I'm never going to exaggerate the evidence. I mean, it is what it is. I've truthfully characterized what the evidence is. I think there's a question on the screen.
Yep. T. Hamilton said, question, how can Ronald Richards possibly engage in settlement talks without a full forensic account and investigation? It's folly to take anything Erika Girardi says at face value, evidenced by her years of massive lies.
Okay, but we do have the forensic accounting. The the forensic accounting was already provided in the lawsuit, and it shows the money, how it was spent. There's detailed records on the books of all the money for 12 years. So we already have those records. We don't need to. There's no dispute. Everyone agrees that the firm paid $25 million of Erika's expenses. A forensic would only do more on specific money coming into the trust account, but that doesn't change the liability. Erika is liable for the $25 million because she didn't give any money for that open book account. There was no consideration. The question is, if she lost, what would happen then? And that wouldn't be good. If she lost 25 million, it's a dischargeable debt into bankruptcy, and nobody's going to get any recovery. It'll go away, and that would be a tragedy. That's what I've been trying to prevent. It's a balancing act, Adam. So that's why I came on strong, and then had this thing all teed up for a voluntary resolution, and then we got sidetracked with this, and I sort of can't spend another, like I said earlier, a dedicated amount of time waiting now for someone else to do all the same things that right. we provided them the records. I mean, the records, we already know what the records are. They can look at them all day long. It's fine. But the issue is simply what happens when you're done looking at them. It's not going to change the dynamic here or make Erika want to pay you quicker.
Okay. Marina.
I saw that question, but it's going to get into privilege. I'm not.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, Marina B, thank you for the super chat and question. She has another question.
All right.
Why did you want to clarify info for Erika Girardi? Were you talking with her or her lawyers? Were you hoping for settlement? Well, I think you talked about that too.
Well, no, that was on an email. They're talking about an email attached to the reply brief. I'm glad Marina pointed that one out, because that's been misunderstood. It's very normal for a lawyer to resolve a motion, to try to resolve a motion without court intervention. So all the emails that were attached to the reply brief were my efforts, along with the trustees council who filed the opposition, to try to avoid the motion. That's like you're obligated to try to avoid the motion. So that's what we did. And we were simply discussing what evidence they may bring out if there was a fully opposed motion, to let them know that we felt that some of that evidence they may not want to address. That's it. I mean, it was just an attempt to resolve the motion. I mean, I do that honestly, Adam. Every motion, most motions, by the way, under the rules in federal court and in state court, you have to call the other side to try to resolve the motion. The judges don't want lawyers just filing motions. You try to resolve it. So that's what all those emails are about. I'm not advocating for Erika at all. I'm merely pointing out what we believe the evidence would show if there was an opposition by all the parties. And so, unfortunately, a layperson reads that and they could misconstrue innocently. Oh, well, why is he helping her? I'm not helping her. I'm helping my client, and I'm helping me. Right.
Okay. Well, Lori Hartman had another question. I don't know if you caught this part of the reunion, but Erika was asked by Andy Cohen at the reunion about the transfer of $20+ million into her business account, EJ Global. And she said that is not true. That did not happen. And I believe Lori Hartman is asking, Erika denies receiving that transfer at the reunion. So at this point, did we get the right information, or is she lying at the reunion?
No, at the reunion, she wasn't lying. She was what we call wordsmithing. We discussed this when I filed my lawsuit. I mean, if he's asked her the direct question, did you get 25 million in your account? The answer is no. But Adam, if I pay your bills for the next 30 years and I say, Adam, I'll pay every bill up to 25 million, don't you think that's the same thing? What's the difference?
Okay, well, I think only because everyone had the idea that there was at least $20+ million legitimately all at one time transferred into her account. So I think everyone thought that's exactly what happened, as opposed to these bills being paid over time.
But that was on the original Edelson lawsuit that I tracked that down even before I got hired. And then when I got hired, I actually ran that to the ground. I actually spoke to the lawyer where Edelson got the allegation from. It was from a California case, and that lawyer got that was in a declaration in that case. When we finally got all of our records together, I realized that that allegation was not entirely accurate. What was accurate is that the firm kept a running ledger for 12 years, and it ran up to $25 million, and it stopped in June of last year. That's when she stopped getting her expenses paid. And then that's when I filed the lawsuit in order to protect the statute of limitations and basically lock her in. And one important role of my job was to figure out what happened. And so it wasn't necessarily only getting the money. I mean, I had a portion of this, which I wasn't going to get paid anything. What happened? I completely satisfied my mission, which was to figure out, with respect to Erika only, what happened.
Right. Okay. Brandy Anders wants to know, will Ronald Richards still collect his 40% plus expenses now that he is off the case?
Well, of course, I get paid for the work I've done. It's in my fee agreement. If we voluntarily depart, then of course I get paid, but I only get paid if there's a collection. I mean, if they push her too hard and she files a BK, then I won't get anything, and I'm not going to submit a fee bill. It'll all be pro bono. I'm not going to even submit a bill for my costs, which are extremely high. I'm just going to write it off. That'll be my donation to this. But if this lawsuit is allowed to proceed, and then the judge in Chicago dismisses it on grounds that Erika is not a resident of Illinois, or the numerous other defenses which I anticipate will be raised, then and it comes back here, and then she settles. It was all my work. Of course, I'm going to divvy it up with the other lawyer or the trustee. I mean, again, there may never be another pleading filed in this case, just so you know. I mean, the case will be on hold if she's dragged to Chicago, because there's nothing more to do. I mean, look at the other trustee from the Thomas Girardi bankruptcy. Our trustee is suing that trustee, special counsel. There's actually a lawsuit between Boris Trezon and Alyssa Miller, the Chapter 7 trustee in our case, the one that I worked for. She's suing him for fees that he diverted from the Girardi. I posted that second amended complaint that he diverted from Girardi and made all sorts of agreements with Girardi the last few months the firm was in place. I see that question up there. That's a good question Marina asked. I do want to answer that. That's an important one.
So for those of you guys, the question is, why are you arguing for Marina B? Thank you for the super chat. Why are you arguing that fee arrangement issue is Edelson's problem? Wouldn't it be Girardi Keese's issue? And who cares if Edelson is working pro bono and gets the money last?
Okay, there's this. I'm so happy Marina asked this question, because this was completely mixed up on another broadcast that I saw. The fee arrangements for Edelson, in order for Edelson to claim a property interest in the money that went in from the Boeing crash victims into the Girardi account, he has to have a valid fee sharing agreement. And I understand that they don't like that she pointed out in her papers they don't have one, and that I commented on her papers. I never filed any papers in this opposition to their motion. I simply commented on it because it's happening in the case, and that's what I do. I comment on what's going on, and I pointed out that it doesn't look like they have these fee sharing agreements. It's a problem for them because absent the fee sharing agreements, they can't claim any interest in the money that may have been dissipated to Erika and all these other vendors. They just become an unsecured creditor, and that money remains the estate. So it's not a GK issue. It's an Edelson issue. They're the attorney that got referred the case. They need to make sure at the time of referral, they had a valid signed fee sharing agreement. Otherwise, they have really no claim under the current theory of their case. And then when people say they're working pro bono, I mean, I don't see a court order that they're working pro bono. They said they're working pro bono, and if that's what they want to do, then great. I'm happy they're doing it. And if they get their $2 million in legal fees and they donate all that to the Boeing crash victims, after, this case is on hold here and they're able to come up with a theory that that's not estate money, then good for them. I'm not opposed to that. But that's a real long shot, Adam, under the facts that evolved. So I just want you to know that it's a long shot that they're going to prove that Erika Girardi stole their attorney's fees. They're not representing clients anymore. They have to prove that their fees came into the trust account and she basically converted them. All right. And she's not even being sued for conversion right now, which is like the civil tort for theft. But let's say all that happens and they can prove this tracing. Then they're going to get $2 million of the $25 million that's already reflected on my books and records for the receivable. So that number would go down to 23. I mean, isn't it simpler? The reason why there was resistance from me is I've already done the work, and at the last minute, they want to come in and basically start a new theory that is a long shot and delay my ability to resolve the case for only $2 million. That is the most they can get, where I'm suing for $25 million. And it's going to go to all the victims. The only thing they can do is give the $2 million of attorney's fees to their former clients, which is kind of not what a bankruptcy is supposed to be. But again, if they want to do all this and help the victims out and they think there's a recovery here, then good for them. There's no dispute for me. I compliment them for what they're doing if that's really the motive.
Okay. Diana, thank you. Almost 700 watching, only 184 likes. Guys, go ahead and smash that like button. I have another question, Jill the nurse. So, and you've answered this before, but for anyone who's new in the chat today, so why hasn't Erika already filed for bankruptcy to avoid all of this? I believe you said, why would she file for bankruptcy? Because she has good credit and so on. But can you answer this question for us?
Yeah. I mean, again, I've accumulated thousands of documents through voluntary disclosures and through 2004 exams before I filed my lawsuit. So I have all the records. I wouldn't file bankruptcy if I was Erika now, because then she has a completely negative mark on what is a pretty good, while limited, credit history. So why would she just file that? Why not try to settle it? I mean, she's making more money. No one thinks she has the ability to pay $25 million. I mean, nobody suggested that. I've only said that's what she owes. However, no one is going to say that that's what she has to pay. And so basically, I think that if someone gives her a reasonable out, now she doesn't know what to do. She's got too many people coming after her. I mean, whether you hate Erika because she flaunted wealth on TV and her husband is a total crook, and you think her divorce is a sham, which, I've read a lot of emails. It didn't look like that to me on the stuff that I've read. But let's say she's the worst person on earth, totally tone deaf. She still is a human being that has to settle a case. I mean, I'm only looking at it without emotion. I can't get money from somebody that's going to, one, if they don't have it, you can't squeeze blood from a turnip. And two, I don't have the ability to get $25 million. I'm not that good. I don't think anybody's that good. And so if we're just going to have this holding pattern, it's better that someone else gives it a whirl. I had a plan, which was at the end of the plan. I wasn't, Adam, do you think we should be on this case for a year? I mean, I've been on this case 6 months. It's like, that's a long time on 30-hour weeks. Think about how many hours I've spent on this case. Plus, I don't want my bill to be so high that, it's the tail wagging the dog. I simply wanted to get a plan, a voluntary. So everyone should look at the docket. Erika answered my complaint, not even a motion to dismiss. She answered it because she was trying to cooperate. I was being pleasant to her lawyer. And I never spoke to Erika, obviously, but I always worked well with her lawyer. We worked well together. That doesn't mean we're friends or I'm supporting Erika. There's rules of civility, and it doesn't help at some point. It wasn't helping the case, by the way, when he was basically filing motions because of my First Amendment activity on your channel and on Twitter. It wasn't helping. So that's why I toned that aspect down with him, because we were wasting time. I wanted to get to the evidence. We got to the evidence, and now somehow we got derailed again, and I'm just not going to go through it for another year. I just can't. And so that's where we are. So I'm hopeful that there'll be an epiphany and they'll realize that the posture that I set up is the best way to get the victim's money the quickest and the fastest.
Okay. There was another question I know you've already addressed this at the beginning of this video, but for those of you guys who are just coming in, we have almost 800 people in the room. It said, saw another YouTuber's video. Are you going to talk about getting kicked off the case? I think there's a misunderstanding, and you weren't kicked off the case. You have decided to take a step back now because there's nothing left for you to do any further. So you're deciding to take yourself out of the case for those who are just now joining the live chat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a voluntary disengagement. I mean, no lawyer, including the lawyer that got subbed out, Peter Maston, doesn't go and discuss why he got subbed out, why the parties subbed each other out. I mean, it's a voluntary thing. It's not supposed to be acrimonious. And by the way, my trustee's great. I would work for her anytime. There's no issue. It's just that we're professionals. And I don't, if it's not gelling and I'm not having my autonomy and I got to worry about everything I say, it's not I like to have fun, Adam, too. You know, I'm doing this because, one, it's a righteous cause, but I also, long before I got hired on this case, I was able to say what I wanted all the time and wasn't harangued for it. So if it's going to be some crazy personal attack, the easiest way to avoid it and then do what I want to do and leave everybody with a perfect pie is simply is what happened. I mean, it's not that big a deal. People change counsel all the time, including Erika, and in this case, it's just a voluntary change. That's it.
Okay, let's chat with Lily. Said, question: if Erika files for bankruptcy, would she have to sell her expensive possessions?
I don't know what expensive possessions she has left. You do
like
get
the Cartier ring, the jewelry.
Yeah, that would be part of her estate if she filed bankruptcy, because it would be well above the exemption. You get to keep some of your jewelry, but you know, if she has that's the problem. I mean, Erika is, you know, I don't think she'd have that stuff when she sold it. I mean, when we ever pointed out she was wearing the ring, she would get mad at us and basically say that it wasn't her ring. So I have no idea. It's hard to grab jewelry off people's hands. I mean, that's not, unless it's investment grade, you know, the type of stuff we're dealing with, Adam, it brings very little in the retail market.
So what, I don't know if you remember this, but Taylor Armstrong, who was a former Real Housewife of Beverly Hills, when her husband took his own life, they showed up to her house and they took her wedding ring and engagement ring off of her finger. Why is that different than this?
Did she file a bankruptcy? I don't remember.
I'm not sure. I believe he took his own life after having some allegedly shady business dealings, and he left her with a lot of debt, and then they showed up and they took her rings.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know the facts of that. No one shows up and takes people's rings. Okay. That just doesn't happen. I know Erika made a list to the personal trustee, Jason Rund. But that's a different issue. I mean, I think they have a list, but again, they don't have a judgment against her. But people need to realize, if you give your spouse a gift, it's not part of your community estate any longer. So her separate property, unless someone gets a judgment, is out of reach. And I think we discussed this on your show previously. There is no remedy to get her jewelry if it was gifts. And again, I'm here to look at the facts objectively. The facts are clear that her husband, who's a total crook, basically paid for all of her stuff, all their marriage, and kept everything in his name with respect to the real property. And he dealt with a lot of the shady taxes, and they had a shady CEO who took the fifth. So, I mean, she's culpable for getting the money, but I've always said it. We don't need her intent. She got the money. But again, it's a dischargeable debt. So I don't know how to play it. I mean, if someone thinks I could play it better, they didn't write me about it. I mean, no one ever said, don't try to settle. I mean, forcing a judgment on her will result in a bankruptcy. It's not going to let me garnish her wages for the next 30 years. No, it's just not going to happen. I see Cecilia's question up there. That's a good question.
Do you know if she'll have problems with the IRS?
Yes, she does have. That's another open issue. That they filed a claim in the Thomas Girardi estate. That is a concern of hers. Not because I'm friends with her, but her lawyer is trying. When we're trying to put together all the open issues, that's a big issue in the franchise tax board. And another viewer asked one question about the nastiness between Erika and me, and then the Twitter, was that professional? The answer to both is yes and no. Erika was allowed to say insulting invectives on her Twitter page. It's her Twitter page. I never promised, and I opposed every motion when they tried to limit the things that I posted on my Twitter page. And I've always said I'm not going to be on the case if I have to limit what I'm doing, and that's what I've done. So I don't see that's not just part of the profession. If people think that lawyers aren't allowed to talk on their Twitter page, they should look at all the lawyers that are involved in this motion. They talk on their Twitter page. I mean, it's people's own Twitter page. They're allowed to do what they want. There's no rule against it. And that was an issue that I wanted to bring forward, which I did. And the judge issued findings that it was completely permissible.
Okay. JS said, JS has a question. You said Erika was trying to cooperate, but now you're saying now she's trying to cooperate, but you previously said she isn't. Why has your tune changed so much?
Because she did cooperate. I mean, that's why before I had what happened is, if you'll remember, I know everyone doesn't know the history as well as me. Obviously, you weren't working the case, but initially her lawyer got involved with all the people I sent 2004 subpoenas to, except for her landlord. And both her current lawyer and prior lawyer tried to represent all those witnesses, which made the process slow and cumbersome. But then he finally gave me all the materials unredacted for me to look at. So that's why it was like that, Adam. So that's where I came to that position. She then decided to just provide everything, and she answered the lawsuit. And on her appeal, she kicked out the briefing and was cooperative in not making us waste a penny on that frivolous appeal she filed of the order denying the reconsideration motion for my appointment. So all those things, the record shows cooperation, and never made us spend any time anymore litigating against her. That's why I changed my tune.
Okay. Marina V, another super chat. Thank you, Marina. Are you arguing that you only have the skills to investigate Erika Girardi? Fed spent years. Do you have proof that Edelson doesn't have records showing Erika Girardi received victims' money?
No, I'm not the only one that has skills to investigate her. I'm the only one that did investigate her, and there's no new evidence. It'll be recycled evidence. Yes, feds do spend years, but they're trying to work on a criminal case, not a civil case where the standard of proof is different. And then the last question was, how do I know that J. Edelson doesn't have direct evidence? Well, I mean, the evidence is money came in from settlements and went in the trust account and then was dispersed to a bunch of people, namely credit cards. So that's not direct evidence. That's just an argument that, hey, the money must have flowed to her. But at the end of the day, there's not like wires from the trust account into Erika's account. It wasn't like with the lottery tickets where I showed that Erika personally signed for the assignment. It was an open court and the money went to her.
Okay.
That's direct evidence. The lottery payments that I uncovered that nobody else uncovered was direct evidence. And that was, I posted that with the notarized documents with the California lottery with Erika's signature. That was direct evidence of payment. The rest is conjecture, and that's where we're at. And again, if they want to do the work and forensically get down to the penny, good for them. I just don't think it's going to change the ball on her paying money.
Okay. CJC said, was Erika aware of the money no longer being paid as of June 2020? And in your opinion, is that why she filed for divorce?
I think she filed for divorce because she was concerned about all the lawsuits and a concern that she was married to him for 20 years and it looked like she was going to end up with nothing for that marriage. And, I'm not going to get into all the emails I read between her and other people. But for her, because it's discovery, and the reason why I'm doing it is not, again, because I'm trying to work with her or favor her. I wouldn't do that with any discovery I've received. It's not public. So if it's discovery she provided me, I don't ever publicize that. But generally, I could tell you that I did read the electronic communications, and it looked like Tom had done enough to where she realized there was problems and got out of this marriage for the reasons that are obvious. I mean, but I don't think that there's any other way to look at it from the evidence that I've seen. If there's some other, I know Edelson has claimed that the marriage is a sham, the divorce was a sham, but again, he's never seen any of the communications. And I don't think I think you're chasing a long tree. I mean, why would anybody want to stay married to Tom Girardi, knowing what was coming out in the news at the time she filed the divorce in November of 2020? And that doesn't mean she didn't get any money. The firm, after June of 2020, I'm saying on the firm's books and records, I don't have any more receivables after June of 2020. Tom may have paid her credit card after June of 2020, but we're only talking about a couple months.
Okay. Let's chat with Lily. Said, is she still getting the lottery payments?
Yes. But we intercepted them, and they're going into the trustee's trust account.
Okay. And then there was another question from Cecilia. Cecilia said, do you think Edelson will be successful?
Let's be clear. If there's really a pot of gold for the victims, I hope he is successful. I really do. But do I think that he's going to get a judge in Illinois to find there's personal jurisdiction over Erika and get something other than the current accounting cause of action, which would require her to provide accounting for books she's never maintained? I don't think it's going to pan out because I know the evidence, but that doesn't mean that he can't try. Or he first has to win the motion and convince the bankruptcy judge that he can go to Chicago, and then convince the district court judge there that he has jurisdiction over Erika. I mean, she's never been to Chicago, from what I understand, with respect to would establish a legal basis to sue her there. But we'll see. I mean, that's going to be something that he's going to have to deal with, not me. And I don't want to be waiting for the outcome. That's the thing. We don't need two people doing the same thing. If he really is going to do all this stuff to come to the same conclusion, good for him.
Okay. Amanda Mary Breen said, when will the cases wrap up and what will the outcome be? Please ask Ronald Richards.
I don't know when the case is going to wrap up. I had it wrapped up. I mean, if I made her comfortable through her lawyer that this was it, we were going to, I believe the case would have settled. We would have gone into a position to settle. We didn't have an agreement to settle, but what were we going to fight about? The only open, if everyone remembers, I was just trying to make sure her Wells Fargo account wasn't funded with diverted money from the estate or from victims or any sort of slush fund. I was going to get the evidence as to who was financing her legal fees, which are probably over $700,000 right now. Who's doing that? I was never going to settle unless I had that information. So do we have that information now? We have the information, but
you can't share it.
I'm not going to share it if I had it. And that's the whole and it's irrelevant now, because that is going to go to the case is going to be delayed because she would have no legal incentive to settle this case until she knows about the other cases. Don't forget, I'm the lawyer on the other state case against her. That's why I was willing to do this, because I would settle all the clients in one global settlement. Now I can't. I have to finish up that other case, which is set for trial next year. And then I'm going to wait until all this review is done. If she ends up going to Chicago, we'll have to wait for that whole process now, and it's just going to delay things. And that's why I didn't want that personally to happen, because of all the time I invested in getting to the right answer. I don't believe that answer is going to change.
Okay. I want to bring this up really quick. Amanda said, much appreciated, Adam. Thank you. We asked her question. All right, Ronald, I know that we're at 45 minutes and we have almost 1,000 in the room. I appreciate your time, and I know that you're super busy. Do you mind if I ask you one more question?
Like I could stay till another 15 minutes. There's no problem. I mean, don't forget, I'm not working on the Girardi case, so 30 hours a week just freed up. So I'm kidding. I got plenty of files to fill it with, but I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush. Yeah,
okay.
It's fine.
JS said, question, consistently throughout the case, it seems though you've jumped the gun and raised unsubstantiated theories, DNA, Rena, etc. In hindsight, would you change anything?
Well, the theories that I raised on the Twitter feed have nothing to do whatsoever with the Erika Girardi investigation, except I did point out they used the same business manager. That was just a dot I was connecting. I would have done differently. I would have got the name right of DNA. I clearly, from all the information that came in, made a mistake on that because it had the same acronym. But it wasn't like a big mistake. It was a mistake, and I'm owning it. But she's not. I'm covering her other federal case, but Lisa Rinna is not a target of my investigation at the time. She was just someone that I didn't understand why she knew so much about Erika. And I do find it a coincidence that they had the same business manager that let's just say I talked to the business manager and got answers that were satisfactory to me. I did the work on that issue.
Okay. Lori Hartman has another question. What is Chicago's interest? District Court? ?
Chicago's interest is because that's where that's where the Boeing case was, and that's where Edelson filed the lawsuit to get their fees back. So they filed it in Chicago because that's where the other court that was handling the case had ordered the money to be turned over by Girardi, and that's when he started getting the amnesia issues and the impairment issues. So what happened with that is he basically filed it against California defendants, but Erika's not in the same shoes as the lawyers that went to Chicago or were part of the fee sharing agreement that's not enforceable. The letters you see from Keith Griffin to the Edelson firm, those are not enforceable fee sharing agreements. They're not signed by the clients. But for jurisdictional purposes, that was enough of a hook to get them into Chicago. Erika's not a party to any of those. So they're going to have to independently establish a basis for personal jurisdiction and that they have a right to fees. So that's what I believe will happen and what I was trying to avoid, because that all takes so much time.
Okay. Tippy said, is there a strong chance after all the legal fees and cost of delays, etc., that there will be a little left for the victims? Victims will be lucky to get a fraction of what they are entitled to? ?
Okay. Well, let me just tell you this. Everybody needs to realize it'd be a really sad state of affairs if we were all depending on Erika Girardi to save the day. That's a really sad state of affairs. Fortunately, there's a bunch of civil cases, including the Southern California gas litigation settlements. And if you see, I post all these settlements all the time. That's all money that's going to come in where the trustee has split fees with other lawyers that are working the cases. So we expect that there's going to be money to make substantial payments to people. But when we have to file oppositions to motions and lawyers are attacking the trustee, attacking me, just so they can go to Chicago and pursue their own fee arrangement under the rubric that it's pro bono and they're great guys and all the other stuff they say about them, that still costs a lot of money. All those fees are going to be paid first because they're not on a contingency. My work is on a contingency. The people working for the trustee are on an hourly basis. So that's why I'm very sensitive to costs. So, and I also want to be free to go after the professional people that did the accounting. And I want to get those claims teed up and get other people in position to handle those claims if I'm able. And then there's other claims of other lawyers that haven't been made public that were involved. I mean, this didn't happen just with Girardi. I mean, other people are responsible here. So that's what I wanted to do. And now I don't have to waste time on what I would consider a dead case. Erika's case is going to be dead for legal purposes because she won't have the mental acuity at this point to settle, because she's going to be bombarded with subpoenas and discovery from this firm in Chicago. And you could just imagine, Adam, she got to pay for Chicago lawyers and lawyers out of state. It's not like Evan Borges, who is a nice guy who cares about her and who's fighting for her. There's going to be a whole new series of lawyers now and just more fees. And so because I have almost 30 years experience in this, I wanted to end it quickly, because the more time that goes by, the worse it could happen. So that's what, it makes it harder. So that's how we got to this place.
Okay. Amira said, question, there was a mention of some settlements of cases that were approved recently for 1.8 billion, out of which Girardi Keys' share of the fees would amount to approximately 300 million. Wouldn't that cover all of the outstanding debt?
Yes, if all those cases settled for that much. Don't forget, they don't have every one of those cases. If they legitimately get the 300 million, they probably get 40% of that figure. If I don't know if Girardi's share is really 300 million, but let's say it is, it should cover most of it. Just that one settlement. Absolutely.
So say they did get this and they had enough money, and say there was like even $10 million left over, and all the victims were paid, all the creditors, debtors, attorneys' fees, everyone was paid, and there was $10 million left. Would that go straight to Tom Girardi?
No, because I posted this on my Twitter feed, which again, I use the Twitter feed so you can get the documents quickly, is there's a lawsuit filed by the Thomas Girardi trustee to make his bankruptcy non-dischargeable, to basically say he doesn't get the benefit of the discharge because he's such a crook. So, and we withheld the record. So it wouldn't go to him, actually, because of the fact that his debt would be non-dischargeable.
And so if it wouldn't go to him, that means it definitely wouldn't go to Erika either, even if everybody was paid, because in order for her to get any sort of settlement out of this divorce when it's finally finalized, he would have to have some sort of money to settle on. And if they're not giving him the money, then they're definitely not giving it to Erika.
Well, not so quick. If there was money left over, she could theoretically get some community property if there was no judgments against the community estate. I mean, if Tom had the thing is, I don't think it could work that way, Adam, because there's going to be enough judgments to swallow any residual that would go to Girardi, because they're not going to be discharged by the bankruptcy. So the fact pattern you posited is not going to happen in this case. Let's just say there's 10 million left over. Tom Girardi owes much more than 10 million of debts to individuals. Like his individual estate has more than 10 million. And if without a discharge, that would go to those creditors. So we don't have to worry about that.
Okay. Tart Lemon said, Adam looks stressed since his name was mentioned in the filing. Don't be. I shouldn't be stressed about that, right?
No. I mean, you should be. It's a compliment that the content on this show makes it to lawyers' papers. I mean, I don't know why that's bad. I mean, we've done many broadcasts. I try to limit who I do them with. Your platform's fair, and it's a compliment. I mean, when they're talking about you, that's good. But I don't see no one said anything negative about it. I think I was the recipient of all the vitriol, not you, Adam. You don't have to worry about anything. I'm a big boy. I could take it, but I'm just saying it's not you. I would just say, oh, wow, it must be another Ronald Richards broadcast, because I don't think all your other guests get in the papers of the court case.
Well, I mean, that's for sure. Jennifer Lab Mama said, question, is Tom Girardi's son-in-law still on the hook for anything, even though he bailed on the firm early?
Yes, he's a defendant in our lawsuit in LA. He's looking at the contempt action in Chicago, and he's looking at he's a defendant in the civil case in Chicago too. So he actually is still very much on the hook. I wasn't really focusing on him because he's doing cases for the current trustee, and so I wasn't going to get in the middle of that. So that's why I haven't really done anything with him. And he also, by the way, his wife received the other lottery payments.
Got it. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Marina V, thank you again for another super chat. Why are you sure you found all of the evidence? What's the harm in letting Edelson try? What specifically will you do now to help the victims?
Okay, leave the question. Marina, these are such good questions. I think I need to get you in the office as a paralegal. Okay, why are you sure you found all the evidence? I'm not sure. I'm just sure that I found $25 million of the firm's evidence, and that's enough for that I know she's never going to pay $25 million. So I was willing to settle for a termed settlement, which was going to be millions of dollars, but it wasn't going to be $25 million. I don't need any more evidence, because you could always be looking for the rest of your life for evidence. It's not, 25 million is such a staggering number of liability. I wanted to move on. There's no harm in letting Edelson try, except now it's putting the brakes on any settlement, because Erika's never going to settle with Edelson because the liability is tenuous. There's all the problems that you've seen her lawyers raise, and we're just stopping the train in its tracks. And then specifically what I'm going to do to help the victims is what I did before I got hired, is I'm going to focus on exposing the tentacles of this corrupt enterprise and other enterprises that are in the legal community, and continue to post things from the cases that are nuanced, or if arguments are ridiculous, I'm going to point it out in a perspective that the average person wouldn't have, so they will be able to be comfortable that they don't have to sit there and scour the docket like we will, and also call people to the mat for things they're trying to do. And again, nobody gets a pass, and I just can't reconcile, even if a lawyer doesn't follow the rules, it has to be pointed out. And if another party points it out, I'm going to point it out if it's accurate.
Okay. All right. Marina V, thank you so much for your question. Let me see before we go if we have any other questions in here. You answered this one from Cecilia. Can you ever see Erika file bankruptcy in the future? We don't know why she would at this point. Okay.
Mary Levin thinks I've changed my tune. I love these comments. How did I change my tune? I've worked this case for 6 months. I've tried to settle it, and now it's going to get jettisoned potentially 2,000 miles away, and I'm not going to be able to settle it. I'm not changing my tune. I want to get money for the victims. I can't now. So I'm disappointed. I wanted to wrap up the case, so I'm not going to be able to wrap it up. Oh, well. I mean, I hope someone else could wrap it up faster, or they realize that what I was saying was accurate and the case gets back here and she's not being sued in 4 different directions, because I can't settle it and nobody will ever be able to settle it, if that makes sense to you.
Yep, definitely. Okay, and since we're hitting almost an hour, we have about 2.5 minutes left. I'm going to bring up our last question. Jennifer Lab Mama said, do you think anyone will do any jail time, or will all of this be settled outside of court?
Well, I think Thomas Girardi should have done jail time, but he got a conservatorship. It's the first time I've ever seen somebody use that technique. I've never seen that before. It was an original. It's hard to put someone in jail that can't cooperate with their lawyer, or that you can't provide effective assistance of counsel if you don't have a client that can interact with you. And so I don't know. I don't think he's going to get jail time, but I think the CEOs potentially, or other people that were actually involved in hiding this, could get jail time. We don't know about those investigations.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, Paula Newton, thank you so much for the super sticker. Ron, I appreciate you coming on and helping clarify a lot of this, because especially after last night and seeing some information that came out, again, I know that we talked this morning on Twitter. I was actually going to message you last night, but I never know your hours, because I feel like you're up before me. I'm on the East Coast. You're on the West Coast. We have a 3-hour time difference. I don't know how the heck you're up before me, because I wake up like at 6 a.m., but you are up before me. And this morning I woke up and I'm looking at Twitter and I'm like, okay, let's have a conversation, see if we can't get you on here. And we got you on just like that. So I always appreciate that you're able to come on and answer questions for everybody. You're completely transparent with us, and it means a lot to us, this community, our viewers.
Yeah, I mean, look, I have nothing to hide. I have a lot of matters, and this was one of them. And I want to get the victims their money through any source of our work that I'm doing, and that's all I could do. I mean, this doesn't need to be acrimonious. I mean, it's something that I did get on. I don't think it's productive to have a whole discussion about me without me being part of that discussion, because as you could see, this is a live broadcast. I'm answering every question calmly, and I hope I'm giving thorough answers. I usually provide receipts to everything I post on my page. And I just hope that if people ever have a question about my integrity or what I've done, you can send me a DM at Ronald Richards. I hope you all follow me. And you can always write me with questions. I mean, people write me all the time with, which has been the greatest joy. This other potential victims have always written me, say, my lawyer's doing this. I say, look, I'm not going to become your lawyer, but this is not right. And this is what you should do. And I always guide people in the right direction. I mean, there's literally hundreds and hundreds of people out there that will corroborate that, because they DM me all the time. Maybe that's why I'm up early, because I'm getting a lot of questions, and people have good questions and they want to know things. And I think that's why I can't give this up, Adam. It means too much to me. Just like I don't have to teach. I could teach at UCLA or law school if I want to. I've done both. But I rather do it this way. It's easier. I can not have to drive as much, and we get a different audience. And like I've told you, and over and over again, you provide a roadmap to people that I can never reach. And I want those people to come out and talk and ask me questions about my view. I'm not egocentric. You don't have to always agree with my view, but I like to try to rationalize what I'm saying. And I hope everybody appreciates that. I mean, I'm not getting paid to sit here. I just have a purpose of having everybody get information from an experienced lawyer that goes to court 5 days a week, has all sorts of crazy cases in LA and on the East Coast. And I hope everybody, and I appreciate everybody being so civil. And I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes like everybody else. I never said I was perfect. And I hope that going forward, when I'm on the show providing insight, I'm actually a lot more relaxed now, because I'm not going to worry about saying the wrong thing. I can say what I want, and I feel much better. It's just more relaxing for me. I don't need at this stage of my life to be under a microscope of what I'm reporting.
All right. Well, we definitely look forward to having you back in the future. Guys, if you're not following Ronald Richards on Twitter, make sure you go follow him. And I also attached his Twitter to the description of this video below. So with that, Ronald Richards, we appreciate you. Happy Thursday. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and you have 30 hours free now. So I know you have a million other cases, but enjoy.
I'll be back. Adam, we'll set up a time. I'll come back in a couple weeks and or whenever. And
we will get it.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ronald Richards. We appreciate you. Bye. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead real quick and drop the link for tonight. I've pinned it up at the top of this. We have over 1,000 people in the room. Guys, it's for Messy tonight at 6 p.m. We have a lot of topics to go over, from Lisa Rinna, Erika Girardi, Dorit, PK, Candace Diller-Bassett, Kelly Dodd, Heather Dubrow, Lala Kent. It doesn't stop. So that's at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight, 3 p.m. Pacific, and it's a subscribers-only live chat. So if you're not subscribed, get subscribed. Thank you to all of our mods. Thank you to our special guest, Ronald Richards. Thank you to all of our super chats, super stickers, and for having a great live chat where you asked all of the questions and we were trying to get up as many as possible. You guys are the absolute best. I appreciate the hell out of you. Thank you, and we will see you so very soon. We're dropping a video in the next 30 minutes, and then I think we're dropping like 3 or 4 more today before Hot Messy, so stick around. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Oh, Hot Messy topics link pinned at the top of the live chat. Go smash the like